Writing style. Just as you would put an intention in what you wear, your writing style has its own individuality and uniqueness as it expresses your voice. It's important to realize, though, that the language you choose in your writing style really impacts its effectiveness. Depending on your situation or your audience, you want to be able to shift gears from the registers of what is formal or informal language. For example, when writing a note to your teacher, you would show respect. You would show a professionalism, a seriousness in your tone. When writing a note to your friend, you would probably use less rigid, more casual, even more personal type of words. Here are these two circumstances. You have a similar way to communicate. Borrowing a pen is a simple situation, but notice the tone is very different. Dear Miss Reed, thank you very much for kindly lending me a pen yesterday, semicolon. I was extremely grateful. Yours sincerely, Jimmy. Whereas the friend, Ken, thanks for the pen yesterday, semicolon. It was cool of you. Much appreciated. See you around, exclamation point. Now, in this corny example, what you can see is the point is the same, but the style, the register, is different. The most important skill that you're going to learn in this Better Way Baehr is that there is a way to speak and write, formally or informally. Both are important. It's about knowing when to choose them. Here are some key differences between the two writing styles. Contractions. Now, while this mother of five knows very well about contractions by giving birth, we're talking about words that are shortened or abbreviated because it's frankly just convenient when you're writing words that need to be shortened. The formal way to use them is where you have both spelled out completely. You should not use contractions in formal writing. The research did not indicate what the cause might have been. Whereas the informal, you can see you just shorten it up with that apostrophe punctuation mark. What we found didn't tell us what the cause might have been. The effect is that it's more colloquial in its presentation. So what I mean by that is that you are dealing with something that's more conversational, less academic and more personal, probably the way we speak. But when you write, avoid use of contractions. This one sounds a little grammarian, but don't be intimidated. What it's talking about is ending a sentence with a preposition. The formal way is to complete the thought and land on a more harder stop. So for example, well, what do you base your assumption on? Ending with the word on is kind of like leaving somebody hanging. One example that I use at my dinner table is when my own children ask to pass something. And if you say, would you pass the salt? And I will say, to whom are you speaking? To whom are you speaking? The last word basically lands on the verb or the more active word, not who you speaking to. It just sort of takes it to a less formal register. So you can see the informal example here. It's acceptable in speech, but it's less acceptable in writing. Who did you go to the park with? Really should read, with whom did you go to the park? So it's a little tricky. I know it's a little odd at first, but think about always being more formal in your writing. Another tactic in being formal or informal is the usage of personal pronouns. We'll speak a lot about this, especially in our debate unit. When you're talking about being formal, you want to avoid the first personal pronoun. Your name is at the top of the paper. It'll be obvious that you think this. So you can avoid the phrases I think or I believe, and instead should write in the third person. This is more objective. So I could see that Iago was being deceitful. This is a Shakespearean reference. Iago's a character. I could see that Iago was being deceitful, but the audience can see that Iago is being deceitful is more academic because it is more objective. The personal I makes it too opinionated. Sometimes when you're writing a narrative or you're writing in the first person, it can be very meaningful because we want to know what you think. But there are a lot of assignments or a lot of academic activities where you want to keep that I out of it because it sounds biased. I am inquiring about the possible job opportunity. Makes a lot of sense because you are requesting it, but it's also about your perspective, your personal opinion. It sounds a bit informal in an essay. This is quick, but basically know that you're in a class that loves words. Any numbers need to be written out in complete letters. So when you have numbers under 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you should write them out in words. If you have numbers that are over 10, you can use digits. This one's an important skill because this is really about being confident. When you're assertive, you're being direct. You're being assertive because you are not being vague. You know what you want to say, you're going to declare it as truth. This will be important when you make claims in your writing or a thesis statement. So keep in mind that when you are expressing your thought, you say it in a way that doesn't sound weak or wishy-washy, but you say it in a way that sounds declarative or assertive or strong. It may possibly be argued that Scout's clothing is unusual. Sounds weak because you're sort of allowing another opinion. But if you state it as arguable, Scout's clothing is unusual, you are making a stronger statement because while there's another side, you are also declaring your point. Notice the informal here, where personal opinions can sound a little unconvincing. I am not entirely certain, but one reason for the decline might be the lack of sunlight. That phrase, I'm not entirely certain, just doesn't sound like you know what you're talking about, that you're very unsure of your thought. Couple more points about being formal or informal. Abbreviations can be useful when you're trying to be quick, but when you're trying to be formal in an academic setting, you want to make sure you show the extra care to not use abbreviated forms. So LOLs, JKs, BRBs, all those texting or emoji or shortened ways of communicating may make sense for a text or a note or a brief message to a friend, but when you're being formal, you want to make sure you use complete words and complete spellings. Now, here's the point. There is a certain time and a certain way to use your language. When do you use formal language? In settings that obviously have more academic pressure. News articles that have an audience, essays that are going to be graded by a teacher or professor, job applications where you want to impress somebody, and you're thinking about who your audience is and what they need to get or be impressed by. Are you showing them you take care to spell, you take care to punctuate, you take care with your words, or are you being informal and too casual and this would not benefit the job? So an email to a friend versus an email to my principal or boss are going to have different tones or different registers of language. Think about the word choice as you make these. The types of words you use will depend on the context or situation. Your formal words might have complexities, sophistication. They might sound more intelligent. Words like agricultural, implements, premises, they have a weight to them because they obviously have a nuance. They're more sophisticated and intelligent sounding. Informal would be simplistic. And sometimes, frankly, we are speaking in slang. We are speaking with a group of friends or a casual setting that doesn't have the pressure. So when you're thinking about your word choices, know who will be reading it. Are you trying to impress them with your intelligence? Or are you simply making a joke and using a casual slang word? Here's the point, folks. Want to make sure that you've got it. Here are the key points to avoid. Don't use contractions, those words that are abbreviated and use an apostrophe. Avoid ending with a preposition because it leaves your audience hanging. Write in the third person so that you take yourself or I opinions out of it. Use numbers above 10. Use words below 10. Always sound like you know what you're doing by using clear and assertive language. Avoid those abbreviations because it looks lazy, and try to avoid the slang or conversational words because it keeps you in a too personal, too casual tone.